All right. Everybody, thank you for joining us today. We're going to start this webinar on Office 365 and Teams. My name is Wade Walker, Director of Cloud Technologies here at Big Green IT. And also joining us and presenting today is Mike Procker, our COO and VP of Cloud Technologies.
How you doing, everyone? All right, Wade, let's go ahead and kick it off.
Beautiful. Our agenda for today, we're going to talk about Office 365 and Teams, especially starting off from a work from home environment. Since we're all working from home today, we really have to make sure we are using these tools and that work for everybody as they're working out of their homes. Next, we're going to go back and kind of review what makes up Office 365, Microsoft 365. Mike's going to hit on that. Mike's also going to hit on your licensing options. There's a lot of different ways to acquire Microsoft products, so he's going to elaborate on that, and then talk also about migrating from on-premise environments to Office 365. I'll finish up with looking at Teams again. This is the third of our series of webinars on Teams and Office 365, and then we'll go into a few other topics and then be open for questions. Here's a picture of a view of who is Big Green IT. But before we get there, as we've mentioned on the other webinars, we'll have links in here in this webinar. We'll be sending the webinar, a PDF of this out to everybody, so there's no need to take a whole lot of notes. And in the packet that'll be sent out, we'll have our contact information, all these slides, all the links, so that you can look at them and click through stuff and dig deeper in anything that's of more interest to you.
Be sure to jump in at any time and ask questions of us along the way. You can type, there's a little hand raised thing, but it's actually better if you just go ahead and type into the GoToWebinar chat, and one of us will either stop the presenter and answer the question right on the fly, or wait to the end, depending on the length and the complexity of the question that you ask.
Yep, Mike and I are tag teaming, so while I'm talking, he's looking at questions, and while he'll be talking, I'll be looking at questions, and we'll make sure we get everything answered right away. And at the end, we'll have the typical Q&A at the end of the presentation as well. Repeat for those who've been to the previous webinars, Big Green IT is headquartered in Rockland, California, just a little bit north of Sacramento, with offices in San Diego and Los Angeles. I'm actually in the San Diego area. A lot of nice accomplishments for us recently. Fastest growing company in the Sacramento Business Journal, best place to work, which is a nice, really nice honor that we've run now for 3 years in a row. The culture here is a nice, great place to work. We're a gold partner, as we've mentioned before, and a lot of work on Office 365 / Microsoft 365 and Azure. And then we also we're a member of Microsoft calls their data center optimization program. And below is a list of some of our clients at the very bottom there. And then this quote at the top, we think is really relevant for right now as we're dealing with this pandemic. One of our clients, Wood Rogers, wanted to pass along their thanks for all the help that we gave them during the COVID-19 pandemic. We had to work real quickly to get their Teams environment going, get everything help configured, and all our employees working from home. And we appreciate the feedback from them. And they're not the only customer that we've done this for. We'll hit on this a little bit later in the slide presentation. And as we all know, many companies had to go to a work from home environment literally overnight, and needed our assistance to make sure it was successful for them. Be helpful if the slide deck went forward. There we go. Securing Microsoft 365 in a work from home environment. That's what we're going to hit on here. You're going to see also interchangeably the words Microsoft 365 and Office 365. A few years ago, there was a bigger difference between these two product names. Now there's a lot of merging of these product names. So if you hear us say Office 365 or Microsoft 365, again, they're becoming rather interchangeable. This is something that's really important. We're seeing a real big increase in attacks on companies because their employees are working from home. So attackers are really going after the work from home environment. Here's a couple of quotes here from our Department of Homeland Security and the World Health Organization. We've seen it ourselves. We've had to help a number of clients with additional cyber attacks that are going on against their technology system. So it's important as we think about the people and all of us, ourselves included, working from home, we need to extend that security of Office 365, Microsoft 365 to that work from home environment. Microsoft 365, really nice way to empower people to work from home and stay productive. As you can see, we're working from home, staying productive here. We're doing a video conference. We do a lot of conferences these days with Teams, as I'm sure you've been doing as well. Communicating in a ad hoc way versus chat. So Mike's up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm down in Carlsbad, just north of San Diego. Mike and I are chatting, communicating, Teamsing, video conferencing all the time as we are with all of our other coworkers and customers. And really the Microsoft 365 ecosystem creates a great environment for empowering people to stay at home. And then, access and co-author via cloud file storage. Well, this presentation, Mike and I were working on it. It's in SharePoint, and we've been co-editing it for the past few days. And it's as if, I've got my own version of the file, he has his, but they're shared, and you don't really realize that it's one document that's, easily accessible, but it's there, it's easy to edit. And I know when he's in the file, and he knows when I'm in the file. And Microsoft 365 really helping us collaborate remotely. And then from a security control aspect, it's really important here from your security posture to make sure your people's identities, and that's your user ID and your password, really need to make sure those are secure. That's what attackers go after. If you turn on certain things like multi-factor authentication, turn on some of the email phishing solutions out there, you can really reduce your risk of attack by over 80–90% by turning on some of these security features and making your user ID and passwords much more secure. We also need to make sure we secure the devices. A lot of customers these days, their employees are using their own personal computers because that's the environment we had to get turned on really quickly. So we need to make sure that those systems are secure. And then all the data that's going to your work device, your mobile device, your personal device really needs to be protected, and make sure there's no leakage of that information out there because people are working from home. And my apologies, I'm fighting allergies bad. So if I have to slow down or get a glass of water, it's just, it's allergy season down here.
Yeah, just don't go walking to the grocery store coughing all over.
I only sneeze at home. And then the shift to working from home, again, brings some of these questions and challenges up. One point that I've already hit on a little bit is, how do you give people access to everything while they're at their house? So for some customers that are using VPN or other solutions, it's like, geez, how do I get my people to have access to all their information? Because now, they're at home. We've got one customer that barely anybody ever worked at home, and they had set up VPNs and other things, and it's like, oh my gosh, now everybody's from home. How do I make this happen? It's a challenge of the remote workforce. Next is, how do I protect everybody from all these phishing attacks? If you've seen some of these emails, it looks just like an email from Apple or somebody. I got one yesterday saying my Apple iCloud account had been password needed to be changed because something went wrong, and it looked, the email looks great, and I saw it going, man, that looks really, really good. And then I looked into it, and of course it was fake. But we're seeing a lot more of these fake email attacks, which are called phishing attacks. We're seeing a lot more of those. I think they read something recently, it's up over 100%, the number of fake emails that are going out there, and they're really targeting the work from home person. And then how do we make sure that these devices are secure? And if there are any attacks going on, that the devices in and of themselves are secure and are reporting back to your console system, so you know that you've got good reports on what's happening for all these devices. And then, as I hit on briefly before, we've got to keep this confidential data secure, and now it's on a bunch of different devices, including personal devices. Really have to make sure that that data is still within your control, and it's confidential and is staying under your purview. So how does Microsoft 365 help with that? With App Proxy and WVD, which stands for Windows Virtual Desktop, we can have employees access critical applications, just like they were before. We're going to hit on Windows Virtual Desktop in an upcoming webinar, but at a high level, it's somebody having a Windows 10 desktop in the cloud, so to speak, and that Windows 10 desktop can be accessed by a Mac computer, an iPhone, an iPad, a personal computer, a corporate computer, and that way you have a controlled Windows 10 operating system for somebody, and they can access it anywhere, and you can have the control over it, which is really a great solution. Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection helps from those phishing attacks. So I'd say, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd say, once we hit this pandemic and we had a lot of people start to work from home, the number one thing we had to help people out with was Teams. So getting all of our customers, make sure Teams was configured, deployed, and working well. Number two has been literally this product here, Advanced Threat Protection, either getting it used more at our customers who are using it, or turning it on for those customers that didn't have it. And we can have it turned on in less than an hour. These policies, you can control them from somewhat strict to super strict, and they are great at dealing with all of those phishing attacks, as well as malicious attachments and other attack vectors that the bad actors use.
Absolutely. The Advanced Threat Protection ATP is the most popular add-on we have for Office 365, Microsoft 365 services. It's a $2 add-on. It enables a bunch of additional security that doesn't come with doesn't come with most of the 365 bundles right out of the box. And you can turn it on in an hour and have it up and running in the whole organization. It can be incredibly non-obtrusive. So people don't have to do anything different in the way that they work, or differently in the way that they work. But there are several knobs and sliders that are used in the configuration, and we can either just turn it on for you, or if you want some help, we have like a 1-hour engagement where we can go through and show you the different settings and really help you get it fine-tuned for the way you need it in your organization.
Yep. Thank you, Mike. And then next, for securing devices, Microsoft Intune is a solution that you can use to administer devices, control devices, push out applications to devices, have device reporting, so on. And then lastly, Azure Information Protection and Data Loss Prevention are tools within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem to safeguard your data. You can do encrypted emails if you need to send out encrypted emails, have like document classification and things like that. So these are a good overview of 4 great ways that Microsoft 365 helps you secure your business. And as we've hit on, and the purpose of these slides is today's IT environment is challenging and is rapidly changing. And as we hit on, this working from home environment really opens up a lot of discussions on what everybody's work from home environment is. Do they have a nice workplace? Do they not? Do they have, again, their own personal computers? Do they have to go buy more computers? So just this whole work from home strategy that some companies were thinking of doing over the next 1 or 2 years, all of a sudden they had to do like now. And we've been reading some recent analyst reports that say a good 18 to 24 months of technology innovation occurred in literally 1 to 2 months, because companies just had to change overnight. And again, it brings a lot of challenges, and some things we haven't even hit yet because we rolled these things out quickly, and then we'll look back on some of these work from home environments, go, oh, we needed to do that a little differently. So it's really important to make sure we're leveraging all the solutions in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem to deal with today's challenging environment.
And Wade, actually got a pretty good question. You were talking about WVD, and someone had asked if you're using a WVD solution from Windows or Linux or anything along those lines, and you have, if you have an employee that's at home working from home and they have a compromise in their security that affects their desktop, can that infiltrate the WVD environment? And the answer is no. WVD is just a remote desktop environment. While you can, if you go in and go out of your way to set up storage settings, storage sharing, and allow copy and paste and different things like that, you can punch holes in that environment so that you could potentially have a threat jump over from that remote user's machine into the virtual desktop. But generally, if it's set up properly the way it is out of the box, then you're just sending keystrokes and screen refreshes back and forth between the WVD environment and the home user's machine. So if the home user's machine is compromised, it's not going to infect your WVD environment.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And that's here in the middle here is enable remote desktop access, and it has a lot of inherent security control features. And again, we will have an upcoming webinar to dig a little bit deeper into that. And on the remote desktop, you can add in control which people have access to which apps. So you can publish apps to the remote desktop environment, and so you can have for your different information workers, they can have their applications that are customized to them. And then, as we mentioned, also securing these devices, managing the work data on them that's on these devices. And then there's a product from Microsoft called Autopilot, which is a pretty neat way to deploy computers. So if you need to push out computers or update existing computers, Autopilot can be a great example of it. Is if you buy your laptop from, name your company where you buy your laptop, Lenovo or Dell. While Lenovo or Dell is preparing the laptop, you can actually leverage Autopilot to have Windows configured in the manner that you want it configured and applications pushed out to it, so that when it gets to the end user's house, that person's house, they log in and a lot of the heavy lift and configuration is already done. And then there's some more settings that are going to be personalized to them for their login. But it's a great way to really control that laptop or desktop that you might need to send to people as they start to work from home. So from this, I'm going to transition to Mike talking. He's going to hit on understanding what makes up Microsoft 365.
Sounds good. All right, Wade, lots of questions going on. So
I see that.
The audience is going to keep busy.
Mike, I also wanted to point out that we should potentially, this is a good spot to do the polls about who actually is using 365 right now before you dive into yours.
Sure, why don't you go ahead and kick those off?
Do that? Okay, I'll launch them from here.
Actually, I can do, which one we want to do first? All three of them?
We'll do the first one first. Yeah, but we'll do all three polls.
All right.
And you heard our CEO, Jeff Rogers, there. So we've got a group of people here for this webinar, as we do for all webinars. So again, don't be shy with your questions. And then also please answer these polls, and that'll help us make sure we hit some of these key topics along the way, depending on the outcome of these polls.
We're at 42% now. I usually like to let at least half the people vote before we move on to the next one. I don't want to kill too much time with this.
Yeah.
But all right. There we go. Okay. It looks like a lot of people on the call are already using Office 365, which is great. For those of you that aren't,
Pool section. How about a poll section? Okay.
the weather's not quite nice enough for the pool section yet. At least not.
Yeah.
Oh, there's probably enough puddles in my backyard from this past few days to swim around in. All right. And then the last poll here is looking to know if you're already using Teams. For those of you that already have 365, obviously.
It looks pretty split.
Somebody's getting emails.
Yeah.
Who knew? All right. Well, thanks everyone for answering. That helps us quite a bit in planning out where we're going to go with the next webinars that we're going to have in the series. We want to make sure we keep our content relevant and useful, and not just something to have on the screen in the background while you're actually doing email and getting other work done. So try to keep it interesting. All right. Well, thanks, Wade, for getting us started there and talking a little bit about how you can use 365 to keep your environment safe and secure. I know that's a thing that a lot of people we're forced into dealing with in a big hurry. I know Satya, the CEO of Microsoft, said something along, I'll be paraphrasing, something along the lines of, we've had 2 years of digital transformation happen in 2 months. And it's pretty accurate, at least for what we're seeing with our customers, and decisions they've had to fast track and things that we've had to do to get things going very quickly. So I'm going to touch on the basic features and what's included with Microsoft 365, Office 365, for those of you that they're thinking more than 3 weeks ago. This is going to be kind of a review for a lot of people that already have the product, but there still are some people out there, believe it or not, that have not taken the leap, and want to do a quick run through of what you get. And more importantly to everyone on the call is I'll also touch a little bit about the different licensing bundles and options that are available. I'm going to touch at a high level. If you have specific bundle questions, go ahead and put those in the chat, and Wade will either address them in writing, or if he feels like it's one that would be good information for the entire group to have, he'll interrupt me, and we'll go ahead and take it online with everyone. So the Office 365, Microsoft 365 bundles include most or all, or a different set of different components. The cloud features are really what makes it a special product. You know, we've had Office applications for decades, but the cloud functionality is just coming up on, you know, not quite 10 years old, and in the past 3 or 4 years has made leaps and bounds in functionality and security and usability over what we used to have. Obviously, you get email and calendaring, everything you used to run on an Exchange server back in the day. That's clearly a core feature of Microsoft 365. It's usually the driving feature that gets people to switch from an on-premise solution. Obviously, that's there in the newest, latest, and greatest form. Anything you can do on-prem, you can do in the cloud these days, probably better, easier, and cheaper. For online meetings, collaboration, and voice capabilities, well, that's the Teams product that Wade, as we've all touched on a little bit, and Wade's going to dive into a little deeper after I'm done with my little section here. Some of you that have been using the Microsoft Cloud products for a while probably used Skype for Business. Gosh, you may have used the Business Communications Suite or Manager, whatever we used to call it back in the day. I apologize if you did, but it's all old and gone these days, and Teams has replaced all of that with modern functionality and security, and just it's a much better experience, unified experience across all the different platforms. So if you've got a Windows or a Mac, even on iPhones and Android, the Teams experience is very similar across all devices, which is great for usability and getting your employees to actually use the product. If you have files that you want to share with other people in the organization, pretty much everybody does, then that's going to be handled by OneDrive, and to a certain degree by SharePoint. Everybody remembers SharePoint. SharePoint is still out there. It's the kind of back-end underpinning of the file sharing that happens within Teams. There's a lot of file sharing that happens within the Teams client itself. Also, if you've got the old H drive or whatever dusty computer that used to be in the back office where all your employees kept their files and folders for customers and vendors and things like that, all that stuff can get just moved into SharePoint now and shared on the back end. You don't need those dusty servers in the closet so much. And then personal files and folders, that's all handled through OneDrive now. We find that a lot of our customers don't even need to really go through the process of having complicated backup setups on their users' desktops and laptops anymore. You flip on OneDrive, and their desktop and pictures and My Documents folder, all that stuff is just handled automatically and synced across all their different devices without you having to set up folder redirection and manage the size of storage arrays on servers and any other stuff. You just turn on OneDrive, and for most of our customers, that handles the desktop backup needs. And if you still have an intranet, or you have a lot of functionality that's the best way to get it out to your employees, then SharePoint is still going strong and still a currently supported product, and SharePoint Online is there to handle all those needs as well. As far as the actual applications we all know and love, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, It's still the same. Office Pro Plus is still back there. They're rebranding it. We're not really branding it. They're just starting to call everything Microsoft Apps now. So that is the old Office software bundle that we had for years. Now they're calling it Microsoft Apps. Just, I don't know. I guess the word applications was too long for people to deal with, so now they're apps. And we'll touch on bundles in a minute. Wade, you want to go ahead and flip that for me?
Thank you. As answering questions.
So everything that we're doing in Microsoft 365 and Office 365, there's very little in the product that is brand new technology. There are some things, but the core features and functionality that we have are things that we've been doing for years in IT. We've had different ways to manage your devices, whether mobile devices, desktops, control what applications are being pushed out, control the security on the endpoint devices. We've been able to do that with third-party products. Email archiving, so if you have a legal hold issue you need to deal with, there's a product for that. Data loss prevention is keeping your employees from either maliciously or accidentally sending out proprietary customer information to other people. Threats, antivirus, anti-malware, email filtering, all the different things that you see in the boxes here, remote storage, and the actual Office applications. Those are all different things that we've been able to go to different vendors to for years, and we generally did in the IT landscape of any small, medium, or enterprise organization. You probably had some or all of these different solutions. However, now with Microsoft 365, you can get all of this managed through a single pane of glass interface, which is a tired term that gets used way too much, but the Microsoft online portal is truly a single place you can manage all of these different applications from a single vendor, and without having to repurchase the overhead from 10 different vendors. So rather than every time you buy a product from another company, you're paying a little bit for the product, but you're also paying for them to bill you and for their customer support and for all of the operations that go into supplying that product. Well, so if you can consolidate that down to a single vendor, not only can you get lots of great interoperability because you've got that single pane of glass interface, but you're also generally paying less because you're not paying for that operational overhead for each individual product. And the Microsoft 365 suite of products is a perfect example of that at play. I'm not going to read all of these here. It's just a quick example. You're going to get the slides after the presentation, so we try and put this information out here in case you want to flip through it later or show it to someone else that wasn't able to make it today. But that's really the core story of this slide, is all the different things you used to have to pay for and manage separately, we can do now directly with Microsoft 365. Here, the good old eye chart, and I'm going to read every word of this one at a time, so get a cup of coffee now. Here's just a quick overview of some of the 4 most popular bundles. Microsoft 365 is it's a kind of standard Microsoft. It's very, very, very complex if you want it to be, which gives you amazing levels of flexibility. However, sometimes amazing levels of flexibility can be amazingly overwhelming. So what they've done to kind of bridge the gap or to deal with that situation is they have a handful of bundles that give you a whole bunch of Microsoft 365 features in one easy to understand, SKU product. And there's 4 of them right across here that are 4 of the most popular. There are actually a couple that that are very, very common. Like, for example, the Microsoft 365, the Business Essentials product is only $5 a user, and it essentially includes all of the cloud functionality. So if you already own Microsoft Office, or maybe you have an operation where you can do everything through the web browser, it gives you Word, Excel, Outlook, even PowerPoint, and Visio is even a thing you can do now in the browser. And that's an inexpensive bundle. It's not on this chart at $5 per user. But throughout here, you'll see for the slightly more expensive, this is kind of the medium to high end of the product line. And you can get a quick overview of all the different stuff that comes with the different bundles. All of these, or most all of these individual products are available a la carte as well. And one of the things that we do when helping our customers decide on how to consume Microsoft 365 is we learn about your organization, we find out what you actually do on a day-to-day basis, and try to help you provide the right product mix to your employees so that you're getting the most efficient functionality from everyone without overpaying for bundles that everyone doesn't need. We've run into lots of customers that just buy the full suite for everyone, and maybe they've got 50 or 75 drivers that are out in the field, or other people that never even have an opportunity to consume half of the products and are still paying for the whole bundle. So we generally look for that sort of inefficiency, especially now that the story has changed quite a bit in the past 2 months, going from customers coming to us looking for ways to get more functionality, provide more services, and do more things, to a lot of people shrinking back a little bit and going, well, we've got this product. One of the great reasons we've jumped into cloud products is that we're not locked in. We didn't buy something we're gonna have to pay for forever. Our business is down 25%. We're looking at everything. We've cut off the office cleaning people. We've let all the plants die in the front lobby. Where can we reduce our costs on our actual operational business spend? And so we've spent a lot of time over the past couple of months helping people really dive in and look at the functionality that they have and that they're paying for. Do you have a handful of Office users that don't really need Word and Excel installed in their computer for what they do? Sure, it's nice to have, but if we can cut your cost in half, can they work in the browser? Maybe just for a month, maybe for 3 months, maybe only while they're working from home. However we want to do it, again, a lot of flexibility in the way that we can help. So if you're in a situation now where you're one of those 70 or 80% of people that are using Microsoft 365 today, and you're maybe looking for a way to save some money, then we can definitely help you with that as well.
And Mike, we have a question from Dorothy Berry on is there limited storage capacity in the cloud? They have a lot of digital photographs. Can you elaborate on that, the file storage line there?
You bet. Unfortunately, there is a limit. There's a limit to everything. You can technically, certain things are technically unlimited. I'll touch on that real fast. So SharePoint storage in Office and Microsoft 365 across all of the bundles. Yeah, everything has SharePoint Online. The way that works is, it's separated into two kind of buckets. The SharePoint storage is what you use for your company to share across all of your users. And then each named user that you're paying for a license for will also get a bucket of OneDrive storage for that user, and they're managed differently. So the SharePoint storage, you start with 1 terabyte of storage for the entire organization, and then you get an additional 500 gigabytes?
10 gigabytes per person.
10 gigabytes, thank you, I knew it was way too much. You get an additional 10 gigabytes of storage for each user that you have in the company. So if you have 20 people in the company, that's another 200 gig. So you get the 1 terabyte plus the 200, so you get 1.2 terabytes. The cloud use easy math. The cloud uses 1,000 gigabytes per terabyte. I know it's not right, don't get me started. That's just the way they do it. So if you have 20 users, you get 1.2 terabyte in SharePoint to share across the organization. You can buy additional storage. There's no limit. I'm sure there is a limit somewhere, but it's a limit that nobody's managed to figure out yet. That storage is 20 cents per month per additional gigabyte if you go over your 1 point whatever, depending on the size of your organization. That's for the shared storage. Each user, for their OneDrive storage, gets anywhere from 1 terabyte to unlimited. So on the Microsoft 365 business SKUs, each user gets 1 terabyte of their own OneDrive storage to share across all their devices as well. If you're on the enterprise SKUs, E3, E5, etc., it's actually unlimited. So what happens is you get 5 terabytes per user right out of the gate. And if you have any users that are actually using up to 90% of that, we open a ticket with Microsoft and they bump it to 25. And if you go over that, then they just keep bumping it. And I don't know how high. I do know we have some users with over 25 terabytes of storage in their personal OneDrive, which is kind of insane. Is that pretty much the
That's
question?
perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. And it's answered another question first, so thank you. You ready for the next slide?
Yeah, you bet.
Perfect.
All right. So the bundles were on the slide before. These are more of the add-ons, add-on SKUs I talked about being available a la carte. Some of these products are included in some bundles. I'm not going to try to get into that on this particular call, but this slide does call out some of the most popular and most useful bundles. Right at the top there, that advanced threat protection I talked about for $2. We try to get every company to deploy ATP wherever they can. It's the best bang for your buck of everything. Advanced compliance, threat intelligence, all these security features that Wade touched on earlier on. Here's just the quickie add-on price if you want to have that to take a look at later. Analytics, we're not going to get into that. That's sort of an advanced feature of Microsoft 365, but there's a ton of ways to slice and dice and consume your data from across the organization, something that is really leveraged by doing this stuff in the cloud. It used to be really hard to do on premise. Now the data is just there for your consumption. Voice at the bottom, this is all part of Teams now. The voice like we're doing on this call today, this is just basic web voice over IP, video conferencing, audio conferencing we've had for years. But Teams now also can actually replace your phone system. So Microsoft is a phone carrier. You can use Teams with other carriers as well. That's more of an advanced configuration. I have a telecom background personally, just a thing. But if you're interested in learning more about using other carriers with Teams, that's something we can do as well. But if you have 5 or 10 or even 50 users and you want to get rid of RingCentral or 8x8, or if you're still using CenturyLink or Quest or AT&T or one of those legacy phone carriers, you can get rid of all that stuff now and just do it all through Teams. You can have a regular Teams handset, good old-fashioned old phone like I've got over here, or you can just use a headset and a USB that plugs into your computer. There's apps for your phone. You can pretty much do it any way you want, but Teams can be your regular phone system with auto attendance and included minutes and the whole 9 yards. And we'd be happy to talk to anybody who wants to get into that. There is a new product bundle that's the Microsoft 365 Business Voice. It's a $20 per month bundle. A nice thing about all of the PSTN voice products in Microsoft 365 are tax included. Anybody that's ever paid a phone bill knows that the taxes are 15 to 25% on top of your bill, and they're pretty onerous. The dollar amounts you see are exactly what you pay. So that $20 for Microsoft 365 Business Voice, it gives you audio conferencing, so you don't need a intercall or any kind of dial-on bridge. Don't need that anymore. This gives you audio conferencing with telephone numbers, so people can dial in from cell phones and whatnot. Up to 250 users on a call. Anybody you want, they don't have to be licensed. That's included in that $20. It also gives you domestic calling plans, so all your outbound domestic calling minutes are in there, and the phone system bundle. That's $20 out the door. So you get your own phone number and your domestic calling minutes and audio conferencing for $20, and it's an add-on to any of the Office 365 bundles now. You don't have to have a special enterprise plan or anything to make that work. So that's some great new functionality we got just back in April 1st, I believe. Yeah.
That's right. April Fool's Day.
Yeah, but it's real. There we go. Licensing, everybody's favorite topic. So I talked about bundles versus a la carte. I don't need to touch on that anymore. Basically, we can mix and match. That's something we can absolutely help you with. The enterprise versus the business bundles, there is some difference in functionality. I touched on that a little bit earlier. The main thing is the business bundles are limited to 300 users per organization for each product. If you have some business premium and some business standard, now that's a total of 600 because it's 300 per product. And it's really designed for slightly smaller businesses, mainly because they're giving you a little more. It's a little more value for what you get, and so they're targeting those bundles at smaller, and by smaller, 300 customer employees. That's not small by any means, but not the big enterprise plans. Then there's different ways to buy the licenses. So cloud service provider, CSP, that's what we are at Big Green IT. That's the newest, most advanced is the wrong word, but that's the newest way that Microsoft is using to present the products to their customers. It strikes a great balance between giving you all of the Microsoft software that does all this great stuff we've been talking about, but actually giving you the support service and human beings to work with on a daily basis that are there for you, that are probably local, you can talk to on the phone, we understand how your business works, and we can actually tailor the solutions that we provide around the Microsoft services towards what's appropriate and unique to you. You can always buy stuff with a credit card at Microsoft. You're never gonna call or email or chat and get the same person twice. You're always just gonna be, you know, if you have a problem, it better just be about the specific thing. They don't wanna know how you're trying to use it, why this problem is affecting you negatively, why you need it to be different. They don't care about that stuff. They just want to make sure their thing works so they can charge the credit card. But as a CSP, we can give you much more personalized service. It's the same price. You don't pay extra to have us as your CSP. That's just the kind of the mix balance that Microsoft has struck with us partners. So we can do a good job supporting our customers and kind of take a lot of the work off of Microsoft's plate from having to deal with individual customers. The old-fashioned ways of buying licenses are still out there. Open volume enterprise agreements, we can help with all that. If you have those agreements and contracts in place now and you need help dealing with them, or if you're of the small handful of people where those are still the right way to buy those products, then we can help you with that as well. One thing we can do that we do very often is when we help people migrate off of an enterprise agreement, we can maintain your software assurance, your SA benefits from your enterprise agreement to a different contract called an MPSA. If you know what that is, then you know what I'm talking about. If none of that makes any sense to you, then count yourself lucky. You'll never have to go down that road. And finally, if you're a nonprofit or government or education consumer, then there's special pricing and plans available to you, and we handle all of that stuff as well. Any Microsoft licensing, most software licensing we can handle, but definitely all of your Microsoft licensing is something Big Green can help you with.
Now you're going to talk about
migration stuff. Okay, so we do a lot of migrations here at Big Green IT. We do, sometimes they're simple and small, sometimes they're long and complex. Real quickly though, there are some common steps that regardless of if it's a small migration of 10 users from Gmail to Microsoft 365, or if you've got 5 locations and 20 Exchange servers spread across the globe, the steps that are taken are very, very similar. So one of the first things we recommend doing in any larger migration, especially if you have a server now, if you're under 50 or 100 users and you're using a different cloud provider or something, then we can sometimes, well, we can often get away without an assessment if it's just cloud to cloud. But if you have an on-premise server, we really want to do a readiness assessment. We'll touch on that a little bit later, but that's the first thing we do. We take a look at your environment and see what you've got going on. We do that so that we can do the next step, which is actually plan everything out. So the planning phase can be really short, that we just do it on our own and tell you what it's going to be, or it can be very involved where we have to talk to your different stakeholders within the business and different people in your IT department and make sure that they're all on board with the steps that need to be taken. Preparation. A lot of times there are users out there that have got 10 years worth of email spread across 14 different PSTs that are all over the network on different shared drives, and that's data. If we're going to migrate it up to the cloud, we got to find it, collect it, organize it, get rid of the 40 different duplicate sets they've got all over. There's a lot of that type of work that tends to need to be done in an on-prem to cloud deployment, especially if the company's been around for a really long time. So we do that. Next step, we will actually deploy the migration. So there's different steps I'll come to on the next slide. And but what deploy refers to in this is if we're using software to help us with the migration, we deploy that software and then we actually migrate the content. There's 3 different, well, there's more than 3, but some of the different ways we migrate is rip the Band-Aid off approach, which is we go ahead and move the data in advance, and then on a weekend or late Friday night, we just switch everybody over in the organization. Larger companies will do a staged migration where a couple of departments will go sooner to test the waters. Usually the IT department goes first because they're the most capable of dealing with surprises or unforeseen things that might pop up. And then in large environments, the most popular way we do a migration is a coexistence or hybrid environment. What that means is your on-premise equipment is actually in the mail flow at the same time as the cloud is, and that way we can keep the entire operation running smoothly and move 5 people, 10 people, 100 people at a time while the organization is up and running. And for really, really large companies, doing a cutover that size, there's just too much work to do in too short a period of time. So we wind up going with a hybrid coexistence approach. And when all is said and done, we do our cleanup. If usually this is, again, with on-prem, you got old servers you don't need anymore. We need to carefully decommission those servers to remove them from the environment and keep everything up and running the way that you want it to. All right. So go ahead and blow through these bullets for me. Yeah. So the readiness assessment is essentially, it's a lot of things. What it mainly does, though, is we get really deep into your Active Directory and into the users and groups that you have in the organization. We help you find what's out there. If you've had an Active Directory environment for a decade or so, and you've gone through 2003 to 2008 to 2012 to 2016, every time you do an AD upgrade, a lot of times there's detritus left behind. If you've had your IT people come and go with different philosophies on how to handle things, and you'll get different ways of doing stuff, that all leaves some stuff behind. In order to migrate, especially if we're going to be doing a hybrid existence or connecting your domain up to the cloud for management in the future, certain things have to be clean and they have to be set up right. So in our assessment, we find those items, we identify what they are, we give you a punch list basically of all the work that needs to be done. And from that point on, you can either take that knowledge with you and the roadmap that we've provided, you can do the work yourself, or you can elect to engage us to do it for you. Either way, it's hard to say. We probably do 50-50 with our customers, where we do the whole thing for them, or we just give them the roadmap and let their folks do it. It all just depends on how you want to handle it.
Perfect. So we're going to transition now to from me talking now, and we're going to view 2 slides we've seen in the previous webinars. I want to bring them up because they're very relevant to what we've been talking about. This is the quick start guide that I've been showing in the past as it relates to the Teams client, and just want to click on a few things that we've been talking about and how it kind of relates here. As we've mentioned before, here we're files. This little red button, I've a little red arrow. As we mentioned, there's the files, the file storage, all those files that are in SharePoint. They're available right here. So in these Teams channels, if you've got each channel has its own SharePoint files, and you will literally see those files right there. This list of people, and when you click on you click on chat, then you go to talk to somebody in your organization, like a person here. These people are in your Microsoft or Office 365 organization, and you can also add people externally. So you can have people outside of your Office 365 environment to your Teams channels. Mike and I are in a number of Microsoft Teams and channels, and so we're constantly switching between our environment, Microsoft environment, and others, which is a great way to collaborate. So it's not just collaborating within your organization, but you can collaborate externally as well. And then just some of the other Teams types of things that we've talked about, creating a team, these are the channels, and then down here, calls, as Mike mentioned, the calls feature is that Microsoft Business Voice, or the phone system, which enables you to have your entire phone system in the Teams environment. All right, let me get rid of that little arrow. And then a little blow up of a different picture of a Teams client. And again, here are those files hit the Files tab, and then these are files that are literally stored in SharePoint. And as we talked about earlier, co-authoring, somebody could open up this P&L summary file, and somebody else could open it, and somebody else could open it, and you could have multiple people editing that Excel spreadsheet at the same time. And then as up here, this plus arrow we've hit on a few times, you can add more tabs to your Teams channels. And from an Office 365 standpoint, if you were to click on this plus, you would see a bunch of Office 365 tabs that you can add, including another SharePoint site, other services within Office 365, email, so on and so forth. And then you can add non-Microsoft products into that tab as well. So real quick look, yeah, go ahead. Oh, I thought I heard Wade. So real quick look back at the how Teams integrates with this with the Office environment. And now I'm going to pass on, I'm going to get rid of this little arrow and then pass on to Mike for a few more things here now that we're getting close to the end of this webinar. All right, Mike.
Well, we already pretty much touched on this. Basically, this is the readiness assessment offer that we have. This is just our, this is what it is. I touched on everything that we do as part of that. The key thing is it is a deliverable that you get. It's a whole report with a detailed inventory of everything that's in your Active Directory environment, a whole bunch of other information that we collect that's relevant if you're going to be moving to Office 365, Microsoft 365, or if you're going to be connecting your domain up to the cloud. There's a lot of different stuff that's in here. There's some scripts from different Microsoft tools that are in there, as well as a bunch of proprietary stuff we've developed over the years. We've done hundreds of migrations with hundreds of thousands of mailboxes, and we've learned quite a bit. And so we can do this for you. We can present that information to you. And like I said, you can take it and run with it yourself, or we can go ahead and take an engagement to do it for you.
All right, next.
Oh, of course. So for COVID-19, we are offering for customers, clients that are using Microsoft 365 today, and just about all of them. There's a couple of types that we may not be able to help out, but almost every Microsoft 365 or Office 365 customer can contact us and get 1 month of cost relief on your environment. So that can be quite a big deal. We need to get it done by June 30th, and there's an email address on here and promo code for how you actually get that if something you're interested in. So I'd encourage anyone that's interested to reach out and help yourself and help us help you, and hopefully make things a little bit easier. So a month, that could be a couple $100 or a few $1,000s. It just depends on how big your organization is, and we'd love to help you out. Upcoming webinars, and this is always in flux a little bit, but here's just some of the different things people have said that they want to learn more about. WVD is a big one. I think that's the next one we're doing, and been super popular the past couple of months. People jumping into this with both feet, and there's some extra functionality and tools that we can layer around WVD to help you really control that environment, and it's a great way to go for sure. So that'll be the next one we do. And we'll be taking your feedback, of course, and if there's other things you want to learn about, we'll try to work those into the series as well. And more links to have just as part of the slide presentation when you get it. Don't need to look at these now. And that should wrap it up.
That should be it. Yeah. All right. So I'm answering a few questions now as we speak. So thanks to everybody for attending the third in a series of Teams and Office 365 webinars. On this screen here, you've got LinkedIn profiles to connect to Mike and I if you want to connect to us and chat with us in LinkedIn. Also, our email addresses are at the beginning of the slide presentation, so when you get the slide deck, you'll see that there. Two call outs that Mike mentioned. One is the Big Green IT Microsoft 365 Readiness Assessment, and then the other is our offer, our COVID-19 relief offer regarding 1 month of Microsoft 365 costs. I mentioned a few other things in this presentation. We're a member of the data center optimization team. We work with the Microsoft DCO team on a lot of Azure projects. We have Microsoft's premier support, the highest level of support you can get for from Microsoft for supporting Office 365 teams, on-premise solutions, Dynamics 365. We're a member of Microsoft's Small and Medium Business Partner Advisory Council, and we belong to the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners. Those last two just really tell you that, you know, if we don't have everything available to us because we don't resell everything in the world, we can reach out to our other partners in the area and other partners in the council to partner with them and work together on any other projects. And now I'm going through the list of questions, so I'm answering these questions now. Mike, you have anything else to add?
I have the top question here.
Okay, I was working on that too. I'll do. Go ahead.
I got that one.
Okay.
Well, actually, we'll go ahead and do them verbally first. So yeah, we'll stay on and knock these out. So the first one is from one of our gaming customers wanting to know if you can point teams to on-premise file sharing, because for compliance reasons, some things can't go into the cloud. The answer is yes and no. The native Teams file sharing requires SharePoint and OneDrive to work properly. That's because it's keeping track of the multiple users in the file. It's showing you in the application who's actually editing the file in real time. It's a collaborative environment, and for all that functionality to work, it's got to be in SharePoint or OneDrive. However, for your purpose here, by creating a special tab within Teams that refers to local on-premise storage, you can do it. You don't get the same level of functionality. File locks and those things are not going to be handled by Teams. They're going to be handled by whatever on-premise solution you're pointing to. So it's a workaround. You will lose functionality purely because a lot of the back-end work is done by the cloud. If you pull the cloud out, then it can't be done. Let's see, local database. That is, so there's a question here about adding a tab into Teams for accessing a local database, basically a Windows database platform. So you could, however, this would involve you having someone that wants to get into some basic Teams development. Teams development is very it's very simple compared to it. You're not learning a whole language or anything. It's mostly drag and drop, and there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But in order to create your own app for Teams, you do have to do some Teams app development. It's similar in a lot of ways to how some SharePoint app development was, but that's what you would have to do in order to create a tab for your specific local database. Now, if this database vendor already has a Teams solution, then you just turn it on. But I don't know, Past Perfect is not one I'm familiar with. So if they have a Teams solution, I'm not aware of it. If they don't, you could create your own. Channels, calendar invite stuff, Teams, or Teams. Wait, I'm just gonna call you Teams now. Do you know Karen's answer to Karen's question?
Karen, I was looking at it. So Karen, if you're asking if a calendar invite that invited a channel, because there's multiple ways to do this. Each channel has its own email address. So if the calendar invitation was sent to that email address, you could take that email address off. If the invitation was just added into the channel, which you might be asking, we'd have to go look at that and see exactly how that was done. So if you'd like us to, we can definitely contact you afterwards and discuss.
All right, and then I'm going to take Sal's question, which I just accidentally, hold on. Gotta check. So Sal, on Office 365 E3, missing some of the features. So yes, Microsoft did recently, as in 3 weeks ago, update their bundle names. And I apologize for the naming shell game. Wasn't me, it's Microsoft, they do that kind of stuff. We'd be happy to have a one-on-one conversation about what's included in the different bundles. If you have Office 365 E3, the products that are included have not changed. So you might be seeing Microsoft 365 E3, which those are very different SKUs. The Microsoft 365 E3 includes a lot of security and compliance functionality, as well as managed Windows Enterprise that Office 365 E3 doesn't include. So, and it's also like the difference between $20 and $37, something like that. So if you saw a slide that said Microsoft E3 and not Office E3, that might be why you weren't seeing those features. But anyway, we can handle those one-on-one as well.
Perfect.
I don't see anybody new.
Nope, but I'm going to contact Dave afterwards,
Okay.
and I'll contact Karen as well. And then you answered Tavis's question, and then Dorothy. So I think we're good. We're at the end of the questions.
Look at that, 2 minutes over.
Beautiful.
Well, great. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate everyone
Yep.
coming to the event, and be sure to grab the next one next week or week after. When is that, Wade?
I'd have to get out of this to look at my calendar. But yeah, it's coming up soon.
So, well, it'll be. I think it's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's in 2 weeks.
Time has no meaning anymore. So
No, it doesn't. Every day's
every day's
like Sunday. Yeah.
Wade,
All right.
Mike,
Yes.
this is Chuck. I just wanted to say the next event is the next webinar is going to be on the 26th, and it's going to cover Office 365 migration, I believe.
Okay, so 1 week from today.
Next week. Perfect.
Beautiful. All right, well, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend, and then we hope to see everybody on the day back at work on Tuesday for
Absolutely.
that webinar. All right. Stay
Thanks a
safe
lot.
out there, everyone. All right. Bye.